Before we begin, please note that this presentation is strictly for educational purposes and does not constitute investment advice. Welcome to our Forensic Catalyst Post-Mortem, where today we are analyzing the February 13th, 2027 Complete Response Letter, CRL, issued to Disc Medicine, ticker symbol IRON. Disc Medicine was seeking accelerated approval for Bitopertin to treat a rare disease known as erythropoietic protoporphyria or EPP. Going into this event, the market priced in an implied probabilities of success around 70 to 80%. Our proprietary DAM framework, which stands for Define, Assess, and Measure, exists to counteract this inherent market optimism by applying a penalty-based discipline to biotech catalysts. Our verdict on Disc Medicine is a tactical hold, where a hedge is strictly required. The failure mechanism here was not bad science, but a profound regime mismatch. This drugs trial was designed for the flexible FDA of 2024, but it was reviewed by a much more hostile FDA in 2026. Moving forward, the thesis has been reprised from a near-term catalyst into a 2027 refiling story. Fortunately, Disc Medicine has $791 million in cash, meaning there is zero immediate bankruptcy risk. Let's explore exactly how our penalized probability model captured this spread. Instead of starting with the company's self-assessed probability of success, we start with a historical base rate and deduct points for every structural flaw across regulatory, clinical, and financial pillars. Conviction must be really earned and not assumed. Under the regulatory pillar, the dominant kill factor was what we call the Prasad Doctrine. In May 2025, Dr. Vinay Prasad was appointed as director of the CBER, and he possesses a documented record of opposing unvalidated surrogate endpoints. Disc Medicine designed their trial to rely purely on a biomarker for accelerated approval, which was accepted under the previous regime. However, in a highly unusual move, CBER actually intervened in the CDER review process for Bitopertin in December 2025, confirming a cross-center political override. Even the Commissioner's National Priority Voucher, CNPV, failed to protect them, taking 4 months for review instead of the promised 2 months. BMO Capital Markets correctly noted that priority selection does not guarantee a faster review or approval. So when we quantify the regulatory risk, we start off with a 65% base rate for a rare disease NDA. We deduct 20% for relying on the phase 2 trial with a surrogate primary endpoint, and we deduct another 25% for the Prasad regime penalty. This brought our pre-event regulatory confidence down to just 20%. Furthermore, our blind spot tracker noted that the FDA redacted the signatory on the CRL. If Prasad signed the CDER product rejection, it confirms our initial thought that unprecedented political risk for similar assets may occur. Next, we examine the clinical forensics, focusing on what we call the surrogate trap. The market narrative emphasizes that Bitopertin drove a highly significant 40.7% reduction in the PPIX biomarker with a p-value less than 0.001. However, the FDA explicitly found that no statistical association between this biomarker reduction and the actual clinical outcome, which was sunlight tolerance, was found. The failure of the clinical outcome was largely driven by the placebo problem. On the sunlight tolerance endpoint, the placebo group logged 133.9 hours in the light, which massively outperformed expectations and narrowed the delta against the drug's arm 175.1 hours. Because of this high placebo response, the clinical endpoint failed to reach statistical significance, scoring a p-value greater than 0.05. Applying our clinical scorecard, we deducted 20% for surrogate risk and 10% for the clinical endpoint miss, dropping the predicted probability for this existing package to just 25%. A strong mechanistic story simply doesn't fix an insignificant p-value. So, transitioning to the financial forensics, we look at the dilution engine. While Disc Medicine has a robust $791 million in net cash, giving them a stated runway into 2029, the burn rate is still a significant issue. The company is currently burning approximately $20.8 million a month because they were anticipating the early 2026 approval. All of the pre-launch commercial spend they incurred is now stranded capital and a debt weight until at least mid-2027. Management also raised approximately $509 million in the public equity offerings in 2025, painting the tape into the catalyst. This secured their runway but heavily diluted shareholders' value. Now, looking forward, the entire thesis now relies on Apollo Phase 3 trial readout, which is expected in the fourth quarter of 2026. Assuming the Apollo trial hits all its endpoints and the company seeks traditional approval, our forward probability of success is around 50 to 60%. We have mapped 3 potential scenarios on the road to 2027. Our bear case at 25% probability assumes Apollo fails its clinical endpoint, turning the stock into a value trap between $20 to $30. We have the base case scenario here also a 40% probability, and it assumes a mixed data that leads to FDA delays, causing a slow grind in a $42 to $55 range. And then we have the base case scenario at 35% probability. It assumes Apollo hits its co-primary endpoints and secures traditional approval in 2027, pushing the stock to between $75 to $90 per share. So, due to these scenarios, our verdict requires a tactical hedge. If you are holding the stock, your position size should be no more than 1 to 2% of your portfolio maximum. You should not size this as a core position until 2 triggers are met. A Type A meeting confirms that Apollo design is accepted by the FDA, and also that the Apollo enrollment is confirmed to be on track. Because the upside is regulatory constrained rather than financially constrained. We have to put spreads here, and these spreads are required ahead of the fourth quarter 2026 readout from the FDA. So, to conclude, we must retain institutional memory to prevent the next loss. First, regime matters. Never assume a surrogate endpoint is safe when the CBER director has literally declared an all-out war against them. Second, beware of the placebo trap, as placebo arms are formidable competitors in subjective, behavior-based endpoint like sunlight tolerance. Third, price the blind spot. Recognizing that redacted signatories and unknown statistical thresholds are signals to reduce your position size. The proprietary DAM framework prices the present more honestly than the market is willing to. If you want to take a look at our upcoming Biotech catalysts, just reach out to us below. There's a link there. Just fill a form and you reach me directly. Until next time, stay blessed. Bye for now.